Do you wonder if you're the best version of yourself? This is the question we seek to answer in this podcast. We reveal information that helps you recover your health and become resilient. Modern life makes us fragile. Our diet, lifestyle, and environment set us up for failure. We do not accept this. We seek optimization. We strive to become dynamic. Well, good morning. I am doing my first ever morning podcast. So if my voice sounds a little different, it's just because it's not quite warmed up yet, but who cares? So I'm sitting here in my pub shed drinking a cup of coffee. Why? Because I love coffee. All this debate about coffee good, coffee bad, who cares? If you like it, drink it. Cold brew is the way to go, by the way, in my opinion. Brewing it cold takes all the bite out of it. It's so easy to do and so delicious. So I'm drinking coffee because I love it, not because I need it. I just woke up from an excellent night of sleep, and that's what today's podcast is going to be all about, getting quality sleep, right? Because becoming the best version of yourself, becoming more resilient, one of the best parts, one of the easiest things you can do is to recover, which means to sleep great. And it's not just about the quantity. It's not just about 8 hours. It's also about the quality. How deep do you sleep? So first I want to discuss why sleep is so important. I'm going to talk about a couple things you can do to test your sleep quality, or how recovered you are, really, is a better way of saying it. And then I'm going to go over a PDF I put together on 12 steps to improve your sleep. So it's basically a free PDF I put together, an ebook. I'll put it in the show notes, but I'm basically going to run right through it. And to start, let me start by saying that there's this great TED Talk by Matt Walker. He's like the sleep doctor, right? So if you like a lot of detail, just Google Matt Walker TED Talk, and you can see his talk on that. But I'm basically right about to give you the cliff notes to it. So humans are the only animal on the planet that intentionally deprive themselves of sleep. This is probably because of the demands of work and the stigma of laziness for those that sleep in. Overall, this led to a total sleep deprivation across the population in industrialized countries. Sleep deprivation can affect the endocrine system, the cardiovascular system, immune system, and even your DNA. Lack of sleep has a direct effect on your testosterone levels. In one study, men who routinely slept 4 to 5 hours a night had the testosterone levels of someone 10 years older. So in other words, lack of sleep will age a man by 10 years. Same deficits are found in female reproductive health as well. Also, sleep deprivation leads to increased cortisol levels. Cortisol is correlated with stress and weight gain, right? Because that is the stress hormone. So elevated cortisol throughout the day means elevated sugar. So that in turn leads to diabetes if you let it go for too long. There's a very strong relationship between diabetes and heart attack and stroke, and I would say there's a very causal, not just correlational effect, because we know diabetes has an effect on your vasculature. And we basically, twice a year, go through a epidemiologic study unknowingly. So we have daylight savings time in the spring, right? When we lose an hour of sleep, there is a 24% increase in heart attack that following day. And then conversely, in the fall, when we get that hour back, we see a 21% decrease in heart attack that next day. Pretty crazy. But probably the scariest effect of sleep deprivation is on the immune system, particularly on the natural killer cells. So this is part of your immune system. These cells are like FBI agents that go around and hunt down cancer cells. So in one study, just one night of 4 hours of sleep reduced the natural killer cell activity by 70%. In fact, the link between sleep deprivation and cancer has become so clear that the World Health Organization has called nighttime shift work a probable carcinogen. DNA and genes, they're also not protected from the consequences of lack of sleep. So in one study, subjects were limited to 6 hours of sleep for one night, and there were changes in their DNA activity. Genes associated with immune function were downregulated, and unfortunately the genes that promote tumors, inflammation, and are associated with stress and cardiovascular disease, those were all upregulated. So it seems that there's no system of the body that's not negatively affected by poor sleep. I also mentioned quantity and quality, so the quality matters. So once you get those deeper stages of sleep, It clears out the lymphatic system. So we have the lymphatic system in the body, which kind of clears inflammation. We have a similar system in the body in the brain called the glymphatic system. And if we don't go into those deep states of sleep, that lymphatic system never clears, and that's where a lot of these proteins accumulate that can lead to Alzheimer's. So literally sleep deprivation, sleep apnea in particular, can lead to Alzheimer's. By the way, if you're a parent and you've got a teenager that likes to sleep 10 hours or so, let him sleep 10 hours. They need, kids that are developing need more sleep. And whenever my daughter sleeps a little more, I can just assume she's going through a growth phase. And I think that's the way we need to look at it and prioritize your sleep. Protect your sleep, especially for kids. So how do we track it, right? There's all kinds of wearables, obviously. There's only a couple of metrics I really care about. HRV is probably the best one. That's heart rate variability. The greater the variability of your heart rate, the better or more recovered you are. So that's a good indicator of quality sleep. So I don't care about all the other stats on your Apple Watch. HRV is the one that counts. So what can you do if you don't have something that tracks your HRV or wearable watch? You can do what's called a Bolt test. This is a simple sort of snapshot into how your nervous system is doing. So it's pretty easy. This is how it works. First, you take a normal breath in through your nose and normal exhale out through your nose. And then hold your nose to prevent air from entering your lungs. Count the number of seconds until you feel the first definite desire to breathe or the first stresses of your body urging you to breathe. This could be something like the need to swallow or a constriction of the airways, abdomen, or throat. Release your nose and breathe in through your nose. You should be able to resume normal, calm nasal breathing immediately. If you need to take a big mouth breath, you have held your breath for too long. So the average tends to be around 20 seconds. 25 to 40 seconds is ideal. If you're doing like 10 to 15 seconds, it's a good sign that you're under a fair amount of stress, you're poorly recovered. So let's get into 12 things you can do to improve your sleep quality and quantity. So first is to be consistent. So go to bed and wake up at the same time as much as you possibly can. Your body has natural cortisol and melatonin rhythms throughout the day, and these are set by what time you wake up and go to bed. So if it stays consistent, your natural hormone levels stay more consistent. So tip here. So for each item, I have a pro tip. Pro tip here is that light greatly affects this rhythm. So get sunlight in your eyes first thing in the morning and avoid blue light from electronics at night. And so at my house, I've got amber light that I turn on at night if I need to see. I try to stay away from any bright white lights. Avoid stimulants is the next one. So caffeine is the big one. Caffeine has a 5-hour half-life. So if you go to bed at 8, your last cup of coffee should be 3 p.m. at best, at latest. Also, alcohol, although technically it's not a stimulant, it can behave like one in the sense that it negatively impacts your sleep. Pro tip here, play it conservative and avoid these stimulants at least 6 hours before bed. That's my golden rule. All right, I already kind of talked about this one, avoiding blue lights. We are meant to rise with the sun and get tired when it sets. Our natural circadian rhythms have evolved this way, so artificial light, although amazing in its own right, has had negative consequences on our sleep. When blue light enters your eyes, it tricks the nervous system into thinking it's still time to be up, and the sympathetic nervous system becomes active, and that in turn secretes cortisol. All right, so pro tip here, if you have to be up to work or just have to finish that Netflix series, you can go to Amazon and buy some blue light blocking glasses. They're cheap and they work. Next tip is change rooms. So the human brain is highly associative. So there's an expression I'm sure you've heard before, neurons that fire together wire together. That means that if you develop a pattern of having difficulty sleeping in your room, the mind will remember that, and then it'll say, okay, we're in this room, and I associate that with being up. So pro tip here, read a non-stimulating book. That's a great way to fall asleep. Okay, next one is sunlight. So get sunlight. So unfortunately, the sun has got a bad rep, and it's kind of BS, to be honest. The sun is really good for you. I mean, it promotes life. Besides vitamin D, it does a million other things for your body. Of course, you don't want to get sunburned, but you do want sunlight. So, in fact, you can track autoimmune disease by latitude, right? This has to do with the vitamin D. Vitamin D is a huge modulator of the immune system. So you go north of Georgia, incidence of things like MS and other autoimmune diseases go up. So don't be afraid of the sun. Don't be lathering up and wearing tons of clothes and hats. Obviously, when the sun is strong, yes, you want to avoid getting the sunburn. But when the sun is, basically the rule is if your angle of your shadow is as tall as you, it's pretty darn safe to be in the sun at that time. But besides all that, the sunlight sets your circadian rhythm in the morning. It's probably the most important part of setting your circadian rhythm. The pro tip for this one is amber light. I kind of mentioned that before. Amber light can actually help the natural secretion of melatonin. Next tip up is walking. Go for a walk. Walking has a lot of positive benefits. Helps regulate your blood sugar. But it also is a parasympathetic activity. Parasympathetic means it helps you rest because of your gaze. When you're looking directly at something, it's a sympathetic state. If you are using your peripheral vision, like when you're walking, that's more parasympathetic. So the military has actually figured this out, and this is why they make their troops march so much, because they know it gives them better sleep and better recovery. Pro tip here is if you do have any blood sugar issues, going for a walk after every meal is probably one of the most powerful things you can do to help modulate your blood sugar. Okay, next up is cold exposure. You guys know I'm a huge fan of cold exposure, mostly because it's 2 minutes, so it's the bang for the buck. It's so great there. But one of the things it does is trigger the parasympathetic nervous system. So by the way, this is what we're striving for, more parasympathetic activity to help you sleep. So, initially, this is a hormetic stressor. When you get into that cold plunge the first time, the first couple seconds is sympathetic, but it's kind of like heart rate. If you exercise, your heart rate does go up, but then your resting heart rate comes down. So you get this like 2 to 3 hour window of like this parasympathetic activity. That's great. And the pro tip here is take a cool shower. It doesn't have to be that cold. A cool, slightly uncomfortable shower before bed is a great way to stimulate your parasympathetic nervous system and help you fall asleep. Next tip is hydration. So you want the right amount of hydration. Too much, you're up peeing frequently. And if you're dehydrated, you're going to have difficulty falling asleep. So you got to get the right amount of water. I basically just look at the color of my urine. That's sort of my metric. Kind of a light yellow is what you want to go for. And the pro tip here is salt or electrolytes. So if you're having trouble hydrating or you just don't like drinking water, get Element, LMNT. That electrolyte brand is my favorite one. That uses stevia instead of sugar. Tastes great. It's a really easy way to stay hydrated. Okay, next tip is probably one of my favorite ones because it's something I think everyone, no one really thinks about this one for whatever reason. It's getting dark. You want blackout curtains. You want to make a bat cave. Because we evolved in caves. Make your room as dark as possible. There are so many electronics that are so needy that want to tell you they're on with the little LED lights. So I personally unplug a lot of my electronics. Like I have an amplifier for my speaker system. I just unplug that. I've gone so far as putting black electric tape over some things like my Wi-Fi router, which probably should not be in my bedroom, by the way. If I travel, I go in a hotel, I'll tape up all the little lights in a hotel room. This is super important. You want zero light in your bedroom. So I just kind of gave away my pro tip when traveling. Bring some electric tape with you so you can tape stuff up. Next one, another one I think that is hugely missed is getting cold. Your brain and your body needs to go down in the core temperature by a couple degrees to get deep quality sleep. So this one really speaks to the quality of the sleep. All right, so if you're sleeping at 74 degrees, you're not going to get into deep stages of sleep. So you want to be like 65 or less. So we set our thermostat. We actually put a mini split in our bedroom. So we have a dedicated AC unit in our bedroom. And we set that thing to 62. And this is by far the greatest thing you can do to improve the depth of your sleep. So get really cold. It feels so much better. Once you get used to it, you're going to be like, how did we ever sleep at 74 degrees before? So pro tip here, if your partner doesn't like it as cold as you do, there are things like the chili pad or the Uller, which is like a sheet that circulates water that you can control the temperature of. You can put that under you and not your spouse. Okay, next one, this is a big one, is anxiety. Get rid of anxiety. So if you find yourself waking up consistently at 3 o'clock in the morning, That could be a sign of a blood sugar issue, but it could also be a sign that you've got some major psychological stress in your life. All right, you got to find ways to eliminate or mitigate. That's the answer with stress. Eliminate what you can and figure out ways to mitigate stress. By the way, cold plunge, great way for stress. It's my number one reason I do cold plunge is to mitigate stress in my life. Again, it's 2 minutes and it has such a return on investment. One thing that can help is if you've got that sort of to-do list in your head, and you're kind of cycling through it while you're trying to sleep, or you're waking up to that, just keep a pen and paper or a diary right next to your bed. Write that stuff down. That you kind of lay to rest those thoughts, and you're able to sleep way better just by writing things down. All right, next tip up is breathe. All right, so there's all different types of ways to do breath work. And I'll put a link in the show notes to some parasympathetic breathing. It's really easy to do. Maybe take 2 to 3 minutes doing that right when you get in bed. It will help you fall asleep. Pro tip here is you can download the Breathe app. It's free, and they can take you through guided breathing techniques. Okay, well, so that sums it up. That's all 12 tips. So the key here, prioritize your sleep. Protect your sleep, especially for your kids too. And if you're not getting quality sleep, download this PDF, see what you're missing out on, and really try to nail that down as much as you can. A ship in harbor is safe, but that's not what ships are meant to do. What does this mean? It means exposing yourself to difficult situations so you become resilient. If you need help building resilience, check out our flagship program called Physiologic Flexibility. This is a 3-month do-it-yourself program that teaches you how to maximize your homeostatic regulators, such as your pH, blood glucose, O2 and CO2 tolerance, and temperature. We give you specific action items through the program with the goal of becoming anti-fragile. If you want to become the inspiration for your friends and family, this is the program for you.